Hey, you. Yeah, you. Welcome to the Malaka podcast. Drake, Canada versus everybody. Well, for those of you who've been living under a rock for the past, let's say 10 years, you probably have heard of a rapper called Drake. I find this interesting. When you go on Google and put in Drake, the first thing that pops up on the right hand side says Canadian rapper. Now, a lot of people probably don't think this is a big deal. I do. When I was growing up in the 90s, rap was always here in Canada. I mean, in many ways, it kind of broke out with Maestro. Back then, he was known as Maestro Fresh West. Let Your Backbone Slide. Classic track. Ever since then, it's been guys like Cardinal Official, Chocolare, Socrates, Ghetto Concept. A lot of great guys came up. But no one really was able to break through the American barrier. I mean, we had a couple tracks here and there. I remember when Cardinal Official came out with Old Time Killin', and that aired on BET. That was huge. But unfortunately, it just never really broke out as huge as Drake did. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but Drake actually started off as an actor. I know. I don't believe it myself. But then I remembered when I first saw him in a music video with him and Trey Songz. That's the first time I ever saw him rapping. I'm like, wait a minute. Is that the dude that was in the wheelchair in Degrassi? Yeah, that's him. I'm like, he's a rapper now? All right, cool. And ever since then, he's just slowly built his way up to the top. And in my opinion, it's pretty much Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick Lamar, who are basically the top three guys who are been killing it the last 5 years. But people will always remind us that Drake is Canadian. And for some reason, people just can't take Canadian rappers seriously. Outside of Canada, of course. I mean, me personally, I think he's always been a positive influence. You know, he's made some mistakes, said some things. But for the most part, he represents the city really well. I mean, he's an ambassador for the Toronto Raptors. God only knows how many number ones he's had. I heard that he just surpassed Elvis Presley for number one hits of all time on the Billboard charts, I believe. I mean, there's no signs of slowing down. Multiple albums, multi-platinum albums, even successful mixtapes that basically sound like albums. Endorsements, world sellout tours. I mean, it just doesn't end. But what a lot of people always try to do, and this has been happening since the beginning of time, is when you're at the top, they can't wait to knock you down. You're basically public enemy number one. And I always said to myself this a couple years ago, who's going to be the guy to knock out Drake? Will it be a fellow Canadian? Will it be someone from overseas? Or will it be an American? An American who grew up in Virginia, who's half of the duo called the Clips, someone who's been pretty consistent with making albums by himself, and has recently come out with one of the most brutal diss tracks I've heard in a long time. Probably ever since No Vaseline. And even No Vaseline didn't touch on family members and other people around him. And of course, I'm talking about Pusha T. Now, a lot of people haven't touched on this. I don't think anybody's ever touched on this yet. But is this slowly turning into a Canada versus America? Rappers from up north are being threatened now by American rappers. Is this something that we should fear? Is this something that has been a long time coming? I don't know. But what I do know is that it's definitely going to be an interesting summer. Apparently, Drake already has another diss ready for Pusha T. It could come out in the next 24 hours. Could come out in the next hour. Who knows? For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, for the last couple of weeks, Drake and Pusha T have been going at it. Apparently, this dates back a couple of years ago when Pusha T was throwing shots at Drake. And it just goes back and forth, these little subliminals, nothing really big, just okay, we get it, you don't like him, he doesn't like you, whatever, And then Pusha T comes out with an album called Daytona that has only 7 tracks on it. Now, for most people, that's pretty much an EP, but he felt the album was so solid that he just decided to make it only 7 tracks. Produced 100% by Kanye West, both part of Good Music. And it's a pretty good album. Lyrics are really good. Production is pretty good. I feel the last album had better production, but still, it's a pretty solid album. The last track on there is called Infrared. And Pusha T, of course, throws a couple shots at Drake, almost baiting the fish a little bit. And then Drake comes out with a freestyle called Duppy Freestyle, basically putting Pusha T in his place. But then, I think less than 2 days later, Pusha T comes out with his own diss track. The track is called The Story of Adion. I hope I'm saying that right. Adion. Cool. So, apparently, you listen to the song, go on YouTube like everyone else does in 2018, and then you see a very interesting picture of Drake when he was younger, and he's in blackface. Now, for those of you who have been living under a rock, again, for the past, let's say, 100 years, blackface is a pretty offensive term. This is what a lot of white actors used to do way back in the day, way back in the day, where apparently white people felt they could get away with anything. They basically thought it was a good idea for themselves to paint their face in black makeup and pretend that they're black actors. Now, the most shocking thing about this, in my opinion, is that Drake has been able to keep this a secret since 2007. He came out with a statement saying that back in the day, him and his best friend were doing some kind of movie, and they just wanted to illustrate the power of blackface and how it affects society. And they wanted to make it into an art. Now, obviously, anybody doing this, me personally, I think it's wrong. Even if you're half black, half white, I think this is wrong. I'll be honest with you though, every time I do look at this picture, I do laugh. I mean, it is just a funny picture. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it just is. But like I said, kudos for Drake for keeping it such a big secret. I don't know what kind of connections Pusha T has, but clearly he's got a very good research team at Good Music. And yeah, he was able to dig this up. And within the song, he just talks about how Drake doesn't really talk about a lot of black issues. And once again, throws a lot of verbal shots at him. One thing I didn't like, though, is that he made fun of 40. Now, 40 is Drake's main producer and very good friend. He suffers from MS, and basically, in my opinion, I feel he went over the line. I mean, it's almost like he's making fun of someone for possibly dying at any minute. So let's just say this. In the end, let's say if the beef ended today, I would say Pusha T won. But he went about it in a really dirty way. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, why am I starting off the whole history of Drake with this? I mean, one, it's recent in the news, so I thought I'd start off with that. But also, it really gives you an idea like how much hatred there is for Drake for a lot of people. And me personally, I just don't get it. I really don't understand this. I mean, we're living in a society where, you know, if someone does a really good job, they're almost punished for it. And a lot of it, like, you know, the shots are, because he's Canadian and, Canadian people can't rap. And, I never understood that. I mean, like, there's rappers all over the world. I mean, if you go to places like Greece or France, I mean, rap is popular there too. I mean, it's popular everywhere. I always considered rap to be the voice of the streets. Doesn't matter if you're white or black. I mean, wherever you come from, it just, it'll say what's going on in your community. In many ways, it's the most honest. But in many ways, it's kind of dishonest because a lot of people do over-exaggerate, maybe possessions that they have, and, they just go over the line. But, should he be punished because, the way he grew up, or, he was given, certain opportunities, and, I don't think so. I mean, like, and again, like, does it really matter where he's from? Like, if he's from Canada, I mean, does a rapper really have to be from, like a really bad ghetto or, like a really just bad community to have that much more street cred? And like, does that make him that much better of an artist? Of course not. I mean, if you got a good opinion about something, and when you can mix, great rhymes with great, production, it's phenomenal. Like, that's an amazing talent. And he's always gotten shit for not writing his own lyrics. And in the Duppy freestyle, he did finally kind of touch on that. He said, yeah, I do have a ghostwriter. And yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. A lot of people always forget too. I mean, like Jay-Z is one of my favorite rappers. And yet, a lot of people always forget that on the Black Album, if you watch the movie Fade to Black, which is basically the whole making of the Black Album, there's a part where Jay-Z is basically rapping half the song on Lucifer, basically what Kanye said. I mean, the job of a good producer is to not only make a great beat and make the artist as great as they can, but at the same time, if they feel they need a little help with their lyrics, throw in your 2 cents. There's nothing wrong with that. I've always felt that the more personal a track is, the more it should reflect on you, the more lyrically it should come from you, But if you're really close with someone, and if you got a great vibe going in the studio, I mean, there's nothing wrong with someone helping you out. Once again, look at stand-up comedy. Richard Pryor had a writer. Okay, he's still always considered one of the best comedians of all time, and he had a writer. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody always needs help at some point of their lives, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help. But again, it always comes back to, Drake being Canadian or not tough enough because like where he came from, and I'm just sick of it. I really am. He's come up with great albums. His first album was Thank Me Later, which, if you think about it, was made in 2010. It's 2018, and it's kind of a great title. I mean, at the time, it was like, maybe considered a little cocky. Okay, well, dude, it's your first album. Let's not count the chickens before they hatch. But he's proven himself over and over again. I mean, the guy records like a new track, like it seems like every month. So yeah, and that was a great album too. Take Care, probably his best album he's come out with. A lot of great hits on that album. The whole thing with that, again, like going back to, someone helping him out. The rumor has always been that The Weeknd produced and wrote a lot of the album. Probably I've heard stories like, a little over half or maybe a little less than half, and he's got a lot to do with the success of that album. And once again, there's nothing wrong with that. The Weeknd's a great guy. I mean, another great Canadian talent. The guy's from Scarborough. From what I heard, he never even left Scarborough until he met Drake. I'm pretty sure how he got his name was he ran away from home, and it was coincidentally on a weekend. And the reason why he doesn't have the last E in his name is because there was a Canadian group called The Weeknd, and he didn't want to get sued. So he changed it and kept it ever since. Once again, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with getting help from a fellow friend. I mean, that's what good friends do. And it worked out great. It's one of his best albums. I'd like to see a Drake and Weeknd album happen. Hopefully, that'll happen very soon. His next album was Nothing Was the Same. They say this was more of a personal album for him. Dealt with a lot of personal issues. Again, great album. The hits kept coming. Solid album. Views. Now, originally the album was supposed to be called Views from the Six because, he's sitting on top of the CN Tower. I always thought it was funny. Like, a lot of people thought, he was actually sitting on the CN Tower. This is the morons we have to deal with. But I'm pretty sure he wouldn't be able to keep his balance. A very personal. I mean, like one of my favorites from Drake. I mean, I'm from Toronto myself, so I love everything he talked about on here. Even talking about Weston Road Flows. There was even a moment in the song where he talked about Tahiti Treat. Which is an old pop from back in the day, and I'm not even gonna lie, I totally forgot about Tahiti Treat. I mean, I think he's a couple years younger than me, so I was like, wow, like how does he know about Tahiti Treat? And it got me wanting it because I don't know, I've had it probably since I was 10. So yeah, I had to find a store that had it, and I reminisced on some good old Tahiti Treat. Still red as fruit punch, but still delicious. But again, I'm sure he had a lot of influences growing up, a lot of Canadian rappers. There's one part of the song where he actually makes a Jellystone reference. Now, Jellystone was a Canadian rapper. He made a song called Money Can't Buy Me Happiness. Money Part 1. And Drake made a reference on that. And I even thought to myself, like, how does he know that? I mean, like he must have been like 11 when that track came out. I mean, like he actually knew about that, you know. So I always thought that was pretty cool, you know. And I know DMX is not the biggest Drake fan, but again, he raps a little bit of a DMX song on that album as well. And Drake has just always been a neutral guy. I mean, like he doesn't want to start anything. I mean, when people start beef with him, like as far as I know, he's never started anything with anybody. He's just living his life. So, you know, I think that comes through a lot on this album, like him, just going through his personal things, and it reflects a lot in his music. And I think that's what makes it very passionate. Even when he makes a song called One Dance, he never even made a video. Like a lot of his hit songs, like on his recent albums, like he doesn't even come out with a video. That's how much of a popular following he has. Like I know it's 2018 and you pretty much don't need to make videos anymore. I mean, I remember growing up, the majority of rap videos were either by Little X or Mr. X and X. I don't know, he kept changing his name for a while. I remember hearing that he started off as an intern at Munch Music, and then he became probably one of the best music video directors of all time. So him, David Myers, and Hype Williams. And Hype Williams, you had to have a lot of money. Like Hype Williams would make, I think the "Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See" video with Busta Rhymes cost at least $1 million. I think he's had other videos that have cost like 1.5. If you look at any cool Missy Elliott video, I guarantee you it was done either by Hype Williams or David Myers. Those guys are just creative geniuses. But like a music video always helped, with your song. It just helped promote it, and then like a couple weeks later, you would hear the album. Nowadays, people will just come out with a hit record. It'll be on the charts for months, no video. You just rank up your hits on YouTube, you get paid through that, and you don't even need a music video anymore. There's no point. You got a great following, you got a great fan base. You don't really need it. I think personally though, there's a lot of videos he should have made, like One Dance, Passion Fruit, I think he should have made videos for those personally, so years later, let's say 10, 20 years from now, people can look back and see a visual, but like I said, in this day and age, he's got a great fan base, and in many ways, he doesn't need it. More Life was his next album. Got a lot of mixed reviews, but again, it had the hits. Like I just said, Passion Fruit, it never had a video. Big hit. He just kept it going. And then his next album is supposed to come out, I think, the end of June 2018. It's going to be called Scorpion. Now, is this a reflection on him, on how he's acting? He's got the one new single called I'm Upset, which in many ways is, I think, pretty appropriate title for everything he's been going through. I would say the last, 6 months, a year, dealing with all the haters, just going back and forth, and, oh, we love Drake, oh, we hate Drake, he's not manly enough, he's got no balls, he really didn't start from the bottom, because, he grew up Jewish, and, apparently Jewish people always have, money. That's such a fucking stupid stereotype. I've always hated that. Just because you're a certain race, it doesn't mean you're just born with money. I'm going to tell people this once and for all. The concept of started from the bottom is that you have an idea of what you want to do in your life. You set goals for yourself. I tell people that all the time. Set goals for yourself. If you're bored with life and you want to achieve greatness or just be a better person yourself, set goals for yourself. The younger you are, the better. I mean, when you're a teenager, it's you're in your own little world. 20s is okay, and you want to go out and have fun, but you know what? You got to think long term. I wish someone told me this like 10, 15 years ago. You know, I'm slowly building on things myself still. You know, I'm still a work in progress myself, but just set goals for yourself, and you slowly build your way up from the bottom, and eventually you will reach the top. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be a millionaire, but in the end, you're going to achieve something great, something that you worked really hard for. And that's the concept of started from the bottom. It's not because you're born into money or you're born into a certain race. You're born how you are. What you do with it is up to you. Started from the bottom, and now he's here. That's the concept of that song. And Drake's got a lot of passion too. I'll see him at the Raptor games. He's always with a buddy or two, or he's just always into the game. He's always joking around too, and I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see if he'll ever do acting again. I mean, obviously he doesn't have to, but I'd be curious to see if maybe he'll take another stab at it. He wasn't bad in Degrassi. I mean, I was always told that when once his character got shot and was in the wheelchair, he would always go around on set in the wheelchair because he wanted to stay in character. So it says a lot about him and how serious he took it. My theory is that he probably translates that into his music, and that's why he's such a big success. He surrounds himself with great producers like 40 and Boy Wonder, who are both also from Toronto. He keeps it very family orientated, and it's not even just Drake. I mean, we got so much great talent in hip hop in Canada right now. I mean, just go down the list. You got Drake, you got The Weeknd, you got Belly, you got Nav. I mean, there's so many great other people. I am so proud of what these guys have accomplished. I really am. I mean, the talent has always been there, but because I think now, compared to the 90s to now, I mean, social media is such a huge thing, and these guys are a little bit younger than me, and I think they've just adapted to the actual music industry and how it just works in today's world. You can't make money selling albums. I mean, you can a little bit, but not really. I mean, if you have a good week in sales today, it's I mean, what is it like? I mean, I was gonna say even 50,000 sales. I mean, compared to a million in sales, like like within a month, like 20 years ago. I mean, that's nothing. I mean, your album now is basically your calling card. And the way you make money, since the beginning of time with music, has always been touring. And he's had a lot of great tours. He's toured with Lil Wayne. Recently, this year, he's going to team up with the Amigos. And he's probably going to be doing this for the next couple years, if not more. But there's always going to be people that are going to always want to bring him down. And that's just life. I mean, it's like I said before, like when you're number one in something, in many ways, you're the number one public enemy. People can't wait to get you. People can't wait to knock you down off your throne and, just see you crumble. I mean, there's so much hate in the world. I never understood that. I never did, I mean, I've made mistakes in my life, but at the same time, I don't want to wish ill will on anybody. I really don't. And that's something you learn when you grow up. And I think that's something I've seen in Drake as well. Like I've seen him when he was younger, and he seemed more, I'm not gonna say angry, but maybe just more a little, you know, more in your face maybe. But I think, like when you grow up and, you realize like what's really important in your world, your friends, your family, it makes all the difference. And a lot of it will always reflect in your music as well. When you have, a good team behind you, you can do whatever you want. And even if someone is writing your songs or just helping you write your songs and helping you produce your albums, that's fine, I just don't like when people say they do it all themselves. And Drake has never really done that. He's really like never said, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this all by myself." No. I mean, he mentions 40 all the time. Like, the whole ghostwriting thing. Okay, he finally, like I said, he talked about this on the Duppy freestyle. Finally, pretty much acknowledging it. I mean, he talked about the writer before a little bit, but there's nothing wrong with that. Just acknowledge it. That's all. I mean, like I said, we all have, help in our lives at some point, and there's nothing wrong with that. Another thing I'd like to talk about is what's been happening in Drake's personal life with his friends. I think it was less than a year ago, one of his friends was violently gunned down. It looked like at one of his apartments. And just recently, there was a shooting downtown close to Drake's restaurant. And once again, his one of his friends was gunned down. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm sick and tired of this shit. Like I really am. Like I really hope this isn't. Like I don't know what has led up to these shootings, but I'm really getting sick and tired of this fucking shit. Like I really am. Like if this is over music, or if this is over some kind of like hate for Drake or something, I mean this is just fucking sad, man. I mean, like shit like this should not be happening. I mean, like people dying over music. I get you want to die for your art, like in the sense where, you want your voice to be heard and you'll do whatever it takes. But I mean, if people are just hating on other people and just killing other people, for no fucking reason, I mean, this is just sad. So, like my heart goes out to Drake, and it's like I said before, this new track, I'm upset. It's okay to put it through your music, and let people know how you really feel. The frustrations of life, I mean, will just eventually get to you until, you talk about it. And, it's a great platform that Drake has where he literally has the people's ear, and, he can talk about whatever he wants. And if he wants to treat this like his therapy, that's great. Good for him. One thing that Pusha T talked about in the freestyle was Drake may or may not have a kid with a porn star. First of all, I don't think she's a porn star. I've done my research on her, for the purpose of this podcast, of course, not for personal reasons. But I don't think she's ever done any porn. I think it's one of those like B movie things or something, and like first of all, I'm just gonna say like I always think of French women as really thin. I mean, she's all natural in the right places, so that's pretty cool. But it's they said they want to do a paternity test and see if he is the official father. And time will tell on that one. All I can say is this: I've said this since the beginning of time. If you're a woman trying to trap a guy, with a kid that is not his, and it's not his, shame on you. Okay, that's one of the lowest things you can do. Because in the future it's going to come out, saying that you did this, and your child will look at you and think like, mom, what the fuck, like why would you do that? If it is his kid, I hope he takes the responsibility. I hope he does the right thing. I hope he ends up taking care of him. And me personally, I don't have any children, but I think you should embrace it. I think it would be a great thing if you had a kid. I really do. I think at one point at all of our lives, we all want a kid. It's just a matter of, are we ready or not? And sometimes sometimes we're not ready, and we just have a kid, and it just forces us to grow up. That's what a friend of mine told me. I asked him, I said, what's it like having a kid? And he said, it forces you to grow up. You realize it's not just about you anymore, and you have responsibilities, and you have to take care of them. So I hope everything works out there. Drake in the end is a very good man. I believe that. Like I said, I've never met the guy. I'm just going by what I see in the news, and more his music, because I feel with any artist that's out there, rapper, singer, whatever, I mean, the truth will always come out in their music, I feel. It could be happy, sad, it could be just frustrations, just getting shit out there, and just being happy, and making sure that you're in a good place, not even just financially, just mentally, and you got the power of the people's ear, and don't waste that. And Drake hasn't wasted that. He's spread his talents, to other people. He's helped people out, and I mean, the guy doesn't have to be 7'2". He doesn't have to be, like holding guns, to be cool. He's just himself. He's a guy from, I believe, was it North York, Forest Hill. Half black, half Jewish. And just grew up a normal kid who just wanted to, make a difference in people's lives. Started off as an actor, and now he's like one of the biggest artists in the world. And he's Canadian. And people always, not always, but a lot of people just give him shit for that because he's Canadian. No, Canadians can't be rappers. You know what? We can be. We have been for a very long time. It just takes you guys forever to realize it. A hit rapper doesn't have to be straight out of Compton. You could just come straight out of Canada and just accept him for who he is. Drake. Canada versus everybody.